A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, I'm gonna log out and log back in, see if
Yeah,
that helps.
Gurleen, I actually think it's. Are you logged in twice by any chance?
Me?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't
Welcome back.
think so. Uh, is it good now?
No, it's still kind of echoing a little bit. But yeah, I think it might be yours, but that's fine. I mean, we'll just mute you. And
Okay.
if you need to ask anything, just unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think his Gurleen.
yeah.
It's just set up.
Alrighty.
Maybe his laptop's picking up or the mic there. I don't know.
Sounds good. We'll give it another 5 minutes, see who's in the class.
Yeah.
Today, the plan was to go over listing presentations. If there's only like these summer classes don't get a lot of people in, and so if it's only the four of us or so, we can really teach to whatever you want to learn, Gurleen. Like if you have buyers, we're happy to teach that. If you have listings coming up, or if you want to find out how to get your business going and started, we can do that. But we'll just
Okay.
give it 5 minutes. And,
Thank you.
yeah. Hi, Sanjeev. You're on mute there.
How are you?
Good, good. How's your last weekend?
It's been busy with the applied practice course. So I should be ready to be completed with module 1 in the next couple of weeks because the dates were such.
Okay. Now, applied practice, it's online now, or is it in class again?
It's online.
Online. Okay.
And believe me or not, I mean, I think I was just trying to get familiar with the tools, the way they conduct the program online.
Mhm.
And I'm sure quite a few might be familiar, but that was quite a process as well.
It's not, those classes used to be in person, and you get to meet some of the other people who are new realtors, and it's
Right.
a class of 60 people or so, right? And you get to have lunch with everyone, and it's really cool that way.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, and then you cross paths in the future, and you get to see where, like, how far you've come, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
But online, I guess you don't get that. You're in a big room talking to everyone at once, so you don't get that one-on-one, or you don't get to make friends, and
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
It's interesting you say that because I think one of the students was asking if we can share our emails because there is always a fear that if you're not in class, you might be sharing how to address a certain situation or a question. So, and they didn't want that kind of element in there. So we didn't even end up, sharing our contacts.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Yeah, we're getting a decent class. I see that everyone's quite new to real estate. I was just talking to Gurleen, and he's in his first month of being licensed as well. So we're quite familiar with everyone here now. So today we're doing listing presentations. Has anyone gone on a listing? I know, Allison, you've taken a few. Allison, do you have, what's your setup going into a listing presentation? Do you have like
Nick put one together for our team. I'm really poor at it though. I fumble. I need to rehearse it more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all do fumble just because every presentation is so unique. Like we're not that well, like 100% well polished. But this is something that as a new agent, you should rehearse, re-rehearse, go through all your CMAs, make sure you can deliver all the CMAs correctly. If somebody calls you out on, you bring 5 active and 5 solds, and you say, well, this one sold for 1.1, so your house is worth 1.1, and someone calls you out and says, that's not the same style of house as me, that's a rancher. Like the trust is broken so quickly right? In our industry, realtors we're like a dime a dozen, so we're so easily replaceable. If someone calls us out on our BS, then all of a sudden, we're done. So we have to really tighten up our CMAs, and we have to be able to tell the sellers exactly what we're doing, in order to market their home, to follow up, to make sure that everything's smooth in their transaction. Because, realize that this is probably their largest asset that they're trusting you with. Alrighty. Any wins from last week? I know, like Sanjeev, Jenny, Allison, you've been in the classes last week, and so what'd you guys do last week?
I did 2 subject removals.
Nice. Those are paychecks.
Those are paychecks.
That's awesome. Was that did it work out as like one client? Were you buying and selling for one client, or were they 2 different ones?
2 different ones. One of them, I've heard Chris Ackerman say sometimes $10,000 falls from the sky, and one of them was just one of those ones where it was just a lead that fell in our database that Lynn and Nick provided, and showed her one property, put in an offer, and I was like, oh my God, like I've spent so many hours on other people and it's gone nowhere. And then this one was one of those ones where I'm like, wait, what? Did that just happen? Like, wow. And then the other one was a lot of work because it was my friends and they were buying a recreational property. And they were all complicated because they wanted to be within 3 hours of the city. And they wanted not to spend more than $400,000. And so if you know the market, that's impossible unless you're getting a complicated transaction. So we were looking at 50% ownership. So this particular one, we ended up buying was a corporation. So that was really complicated. And we went up there quite a bit to look at all kinds of components. So it's a lot of work, but it was my friends. So it was fun road trips and lots of laughs.
Yeah, exactly. You get to have lunch, write them off.
Yeah, yes. So yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
But no, they're completely separate.
That's awesome. Like we don't have like regular day jobs. We don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks, but so it's like sometimes you don't know when the next paycheck's coming. But one of the best things about a realtor is once in a while you'll get 3 in one day. And like 2 subject removal is amazing. Like those are solid deals. Closing is super easy. Make sure you have your lawyer's information into Michaela. And there's very little to do, but there is a next steps email that we send out after subject removal. One of the things that's really important for our customers and clients is making sure that they know what's next. You don't ever want a client calling you to say, what's going on? What do I do? Right? You want to be in control of that conversation and make sure that they know what's going on before they ask. So we have set next steps emails. Maybe I can hang on, present. So if you're all in coaching, you have access to this website. If you don't, put your email address into the chat box and then we'll get you access to it. And so Allison, you can see here, like we have, right after you listed, what's the next step? After you accept an offer, what's the next step? After subject remove buyers, you're here. And you do want to tweak these to the conversation that you had with your buyer. So if you said, you're going to recommend them a mover, you want to put that in here. Why is it so slow? It exists, I promise. Can anyone open this? Let's see. There we go. Can someone check that link?
Yeah, it works. It came up.
It came up. Can you share your screen, Amin?
Yeah.
And then we'll go over this really quickly because these next steps, emails are really powerful. It does set you apart from the transactional realtor, or we like to call them like taillight realtors, where they just do the deal and then go away. And then zoom in if you can. Thanks. So it starts off. So Allison, you have clients who just bought. It says, congratulations, you've bought a home. Now we get to celebrate and organize the final steps to successful close. Here's a list of what's coming next. Your deposit check. Now that subjects are removed, the deposit is now due in the amount specified on page 1. So that was probably done already upon subject removal. So you could delete that in most cases. If the deposit's due in the next 24 hours, definitely have that. Legal and conveyancing. Next, you'll need to choose a lawyer or notary who will assist you with finalizing the mortgage payments. And then they recommend some lawyers here. And notaries. And moving companies. Moving trucks. So this is pretty in-depth. Pods. Does everyone know what pods are? It's like a self-storage that comes to your house, and you can leave it in your carport or garage or driveway. And he has interprovincial movers. Obviously, if your folks are moving 5 minutes away, then you don't need interprovincial movers. So it's kind of all there, and you're supposed to delete what doesn't apply to them, and then add what does. But again, it's mainly to set the stage so they don't start calling you and asking you what's next between subject removal and completion. The time between those two dates are usually like 3 weeks to 3 months. And like the weird thing is, you talk to your clients like at least every week, maybe twice a week. You see them viewing homes and everything and lunch, and all of a sudden you remove subjects and then you don't see them again until completion. And so a lot of times like a check-in call will help midway between. Just say, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while. Just want to make sure everything's all right on your side. See if you have any questions. I'll be there for possession. Well, I think one of the things like I've learned recently was, possession's just such an important time for your buyers that you owe it to them to show up and be there. I had a listing in Fort Moody a few months ago, and the morning of possession, I told the buyer's agent that I'll leave the keys under the rug, like either it's lockbox or leave the keys under the rug. I get a call from his clients, the buyer, and they were in a panic, and they're like, oh, the moving truck's outside. We can't get a hold of our realtor. And so I told them that the key's under the rug and everything's done. I sent the cleaners and they're really happy with that. But I just thought, like, in that moment, I was like, it doesn't look like that realtor's going to get hired again from these buyers when they go to sell the property in a few years. Yeah. So again, like, don't be that taillight realtor who just like sells them a house and just leaves. Possession is like such an important date and time. And a lot of people, they'll be like, okay, I get the keys at noon. that means my buyers are going to be showing up, or my movers are going to be showing up to the new house at noon. Just because they're that excited. Any questions? All right, we digress. We go back to listings. Yeah, so like, who's read the Millionaire Real Estate book? Cover to cover, or at least the first 150 pages?
I read a little bit.
You read a little bit. The foundation to the business of real estate is that triangle, the pyramid, that leads at the bottom. So you always have to have leads coming in. You always have to be looking for leads. Listings is on the side, and then leverage is on the other side of the triangle. So like, that's kind of the pyramid of your realtor business. Is you always have to have leads coming in. You always have to be lead generating for listings. The buyers will come through your listings. Okay, so don't lead generate for buyers, just lead gen for listings. And then leverage is when you get into the team model, and that's the last half of the book. If you haven't read it yet, like, get it from Amazon. It's the best book ever written about being a realtor. There's also a PDF version on our wiki site. Go ahead, Sanjeev.
You said a lead gen for only listings and not for buyers. Could you elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Like, think of like all the ways you could lead gen, whether it's sphere of influence, going door knocking, cold calling, creating websites, whatever you do to lead gen. So you can split them into two piles. You can say, okay, I'm going to lead gen for listings only, meaning you're going after expireds, for sale by owners. You're going for move up, whoever they are, you're trying to get listings, right? The other side is you could lead gen for buyers. You could lead gen and trying to pick up investors. They're always buying and never selling. You could lead gen for first-time home buyers. However, like, all your time and energy should be put into lead genning for listings. And in the slides, I'll tell you why. Because you can leverage a lot of listings. Eventually, you'll pick up buyers from that listing. And also your sellers, if they live in the home, they have to buy. And so you will get buyers from your listings. But your time is so much more valuable when you're listing properties. There's an old saying in real estate. They say you have to list to last. To last in real estate as a realtor, you have to be listing properties. Yeah. And even like your time leveraged, they did a study a while back. If you're working with a buyer, and Allison, you probably know this from hanging out with your friends like so much in the last couple of months, a buyer takes 32 hours of face-to-face time for a closing, right? 32 hours, which includes putting all the lists together, emailing them, going back and forth on which homes to see, going out to see the homes, negotiating the offer, looking at the inspections, renegotiating the inspection, all the way to closings, about 32 hours of man hours worked. On the listing side, it's about 8 hours. So your time's leveraged at 4 to 1.
Yeah, I the only reason I asked was that in the beginning, always it's kind of said upon that, or most people start with as a buyer's agent, or the fact that there is a less commitment on part of the buyer, so it's easy for you to step into that game. And not that it's most fruitful time-wise, but like you said, that it might be in the initial stages that we might have to work more with buyers in the beginning, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. In the beginning of your career, you're more likely to work with a lot of buyers. They're just out there. There's a lot of first-time buyers out there. Again, investors, builders have to buy before they sell. They have to buy the raw land before they sell or demo projects. So naturally, there's a lot of buyers until you really get your foot in the door. You have that clientele. But if you're looking to lead gen for, let's say, 12 hours this week, then you're better off putting all that 12 hours into lead genning for listings.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And especially in a seller's market right now, like it's a no-brainer. You're very likely you have a 90% chance of selling the listing that you take, unless it's overpriced by $1 million, Allison. So yeah, in a seller's market too, it's nice to have listings. All right, any questions before we get started here? Eventually, like as homework, I want everyone here to have that listing presentation. I'll share mine with you today. But have like a nice pretty listing presentation that you could bring to sellers that looks professional along with your CMA. And so by the end today, I'll share that with you. One sec, I'm just sharing the screen. All right, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. As everyone, if you can go to it, it's between September 13th and 17th. We're doing an event called 7 Days to Success. Amin, do you want to put in the chat box the link to register?
Yeah, no problem.
So the address is it's at our training center in Port Coquitlam. So we're going to do this for 5 days. Show up at 8:30, go till 5. And this is strictly growing your business, finishing the year strong. We're really going to dive into like what you really need to do to gain leads. This is almost like boot camp. So we're calling it Hell Week. So in it, like we'll 8:30 in the morning, we'll rehearse all the conversations, meaning we'll be scripting. We'll be giving you dialogue and what to say. We're going to connect with your sphere, with a purpose of getting business. And, we realize that these conversations are pretty sensitive. We don't want you to lose your friends or be too forceful into the conversation of, being like, I'm a realtor. You have to give me all your business now. Who do you know that's, we're not going to trick people into into that kind of thing. So we have the proper scripts and, to ease into a conversation of you being a realtor and everything. We're going to call local businesses. So you have those alliances, you create alliances. Like if I asked you, do you have a pest control company that you can rely on? Do you have an arborist that you can rely on? These are businesses that a lot of clients are going to reach out and ask you for. Do you have an accountant? The easy ones are inspectors, lawyers, mortgage brokers. Like we use those all the time, but we want you to branch out and think about what other services are there? What other businesses can you help? Local businesses can you help? And those are going to be really good sources of leads for you as well. Because once you start helping other people grow their business, they're going to be thinking of you if someone needs a realtor, if their customers need a realtor. Friday is going to be social media day. So we're going to create and post engaging social content. Don't look at my Instagram unless you want an example of how not to run an Instagram account, then you can look at what mine looks like. But I know Amin and Chris run a really good, successful business out of their social media. Grow your database in Command. So all the leads we're going to stick into Command. The trick is like in the first 5 years of my business, I would go door knocking, I would make cold calls, and then I would have all these like leads on Post-it notes or in my book. And I wouldn't write down what we talked about. I would just have their name, their phone number, and I get really excited. I'm like, yes, I got a lead today. I feel like I did something. I'd follow up with them the week later, and they're like, oh, no, we're not selling for another year or two. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep in touch. And then I won't look at that Post-it note or like that scribble on my notepad for a while. And then I'd completely forget what I talked about. I'd forget their address. And like now I have hundreds of names and numbers that aren't connected to any kind of database or follow-up. And so I've easily lost, I don't know, dozens of pieces of business from that. And so part of creating the habits in this boot camp is going to be putting the names and the numbers and the conversations that you've had into Command. And so we're going to do that for the last hour or two of every day to set those habits. We're going to set listing buyer appointments on those days for the weekend. So, have your weekend like Saturday. Saturday's always a good day to go on listing presentations. If you can have a perfect day, have like that 10 to 12 spot, have lunch, that 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5 spot for 3 different listing appointments or buyer appointments. For the Saturday, we're going to schedule follow-ups, report numbers, celebrate them, and then hopefully create all the habits in that week to end our year off, cap off our year. Any questions on this? Amin just posted a registry, so please register. And the reason why we're doing this is because we know we might be going into another phase of lockdown or whatever. And I know the training center will probably have a cap number of people who can go there. We do want to invite as many people as possible, have that energy in the room. But we're going to open it up to coaching students first, and then anyone who's been in coaching before. So we'll have that invite list go out, and then we'll have other people in the office as well as other offices come out too. So we're hoping to fill the room to whatever we can, but we ask that everyone registers and doesn't just show up. Yeah. Does everyone think they can make it?
Hiroshi, if we can do part of the program and might be committed another day somewhere else, then could we do it that way, or does it have to be all or none?
We encourage that every day is going to be different.
Right.
So we want you to show up for all of them. Obviously, we have lives and kids, and not all of us could be here. So if you can't be there, you can. I know, but I don't want you to miss this because you're on a buyer tour that you could have rescheduled for 6 p.m. on those days.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
So,
and lastly, if I don't have my license yet, could I still be part of this training?
Amin, what do you think?
It's a good question because he can't really be making calls, right?
Right.
Yeah. If you're not, so the challenge is like, thank you for joining us on these calls. It's great to know everything, but the 5 days here are really focused on talking to people, making the calls, calling these businesses.
Right.
saying you're a realtor. So that might be against,
Correct.
yeah, the, you know,
And that's part of the reason I was inquiring the fact that, you had elements of this training which were not really online in terms of other engagement like script practice or the social media tools and things like that. So, maybe I could get live. And I think also the intent is to kind of get live with you folks and get
Mhm.
the energy. So that's why I was asking if I could do part of it versus all.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what you could do is maybe the day that we're calling our sphere or friends or family, you could probably show up that day without an issue because you're not you're just basically going to inform them that you're getting licensed or you're close to getting licensed.
Right.
Um, calling outside of that technically not really allowed to at this point. So
For sure. For sure. Anyway, we'll discuss those on a separate platform, but thanks for introducing this. Thank you.
yeah, no, good questions there. The Friday is the social media, so for sure that would be worth it, even if you're not licensed.
Yeah, I would love to can maybe mark my Friday and be available for that for sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right on. Any other questions? Cool. And so, like I said, like if you're reading the Millionaire Real Estate book, it's about a 250, 300 page book. And this is what they tell you, like near the beginning, is everything inside the triangle is mindset. Okay, you have to think like a millionaire real estate agent and if you don't think it, you can't earn it. In order to earn big, you have to think big, and then you have to net $1 million and then receive $1 million. They are coming out with a new millionaire real estate agent book, but I don't know when. Like they've been talking about it for about 4 years now, which I've been really excited about. But yeah, I thought it was going to come out like 3 years ago, but it's just in production right now. Above receive $1 million, there's going to be a new triangle on there that says give $1 million. So now on top of making $1 million through being a realtor, you want to be able to donate $1 million to charity. And there are agents who've done that in the past. I know Ron Antelek's given $1 million to the Children's Hospital in Maple Ridge, or Vancouver, I guess. There's not one in Maple Ridge. At the time, it was anonymous until people caught wind of it. There's guys in our office, like Trevor Street. He gives a lot of money to the charities that he's behind. Same with Terry. Yeah, it's definitely another level of business once you become charitable. So, your foundation is think $1 million, read the book, know how much your database is important to you, and then start earning, net, receive, and then give. And like I said, like the triangle's formed as leads. You have to have leads in order to get listings. And then once you have enough listings, you're going to start leveraging. And that's pretty much like how simple the business is. It's not an easy business to be in. The rate of people who fall off after the first 2 years is extremely high. And, I don't want any of you to fall out after 2 years. I want everyone to have like a successful career, running a business up and running. And so I know it's not easy, but the simplicity of the business compared to owning anything else or opening up a shop or a coffee shop or anything like that is it's much simple than opening a business for yourself. So it comes down to leads, listings, leverage. If you don't have listings, you got to go back and lead generate. Any questions on this? Are you guys still there? I can't see everyone because I'm on the slides.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So once you take on a listing, so like I said, if you spend all your time and energy into lead generating for listings and you get that, you get that listings, there's going to be different opportunities that come up from owning that listing. And you know, in the last year and a half, like it's been such a seller's market that it's almost unfortunate that homes sell so quickly that you can't flex your muscle in saying, this is how I market the homes. Who else do you know that's looking to sell in that neighborhood? Because before, like if you get one listing, you're very likely to list someone else's house. Another buyer's going to come in while you're doing the open houses, and then you're going to sign them up as clients. This is why we want to lead generate for listings, is that you get all these other opportunities from it. So opportunity number one, you meet the seller. Okay. They live in the home and they're moving up or downsizing. So they're going to buy their next home. Okay. So that meeting would usually be at the same time. You know, they'll tell you, they'll say, okay, or I'll ask them, like, you know, what are you guys going to do when we sell this house? You can't go homeless. Where are you looking to move? And so the seller's purchasing another home is opportunity number one. Number two is a neighbor sees your sign or comes into your open house and wants to sell. Or once you list, the sign goes up, it's not on MLS yet. You start door knocking that neighborhood and you say, hey, just want to let you know, we're going to be listing this property 123 Main Street in the next week or two. If you know someone who's looking to buy, please tell them. And then they're going to see how you market homes and how you show up. And then you'll be top of mind if they don't know a realtor. So opportunity number two is find a neighbor who's selling. That's one thing about open houses, is that, you know, a lot of people might have like a nosy neighbor come in to their open house and just say, oh yeah, I don't want to spend any time with them. I just want to sell the house. Or find a buyer, find a buyer who's going to look somewhere else. But a lot of times, like, those neighbors who come into your open house are interviewing realtors. They want to know if, you know, you're doing a good job with the open house, you're representing the sellers. They want to know how you market the home, how you talk about the home, and how you're selling, because they're looking to sell in the next 3 to 6 months. The next one's, you get a sign call. Okay, so we used to call them sign calls, you know, before 95% of buyers found their homes online. Typically, they'd be going out for a walk or they'd be driving the neighborhood. They see your sign and they say, oh, are you Hiroshi, the realtor who's got the house on Main Street? How much is it? We used to get those a lot, but this has changed into a lead from realtor.ca. So if you have a listing, it's all over the websites. It's on MLS. It's on realtor.ca and Realty Link. And so we'd get an email that's a lead, and it'll say like how many square feet's a lot. Or if it's an apartment or townhouse, it'll ask what the pet restrictions are. And those are buyers who usually don't have realtors, and it's your job to convert them. Find a buyer for the home and refer it out. We can't represent the buyer, But someone might come in and come into the home, love it, or it's a sign call, loves it, loves the home, and then you refer that buyer to a colleague. Upstream marketing campaign. Have you guys heard that? Do you know what that is? Can anyone take a guess?
Would it be reaching out to the market where the seller wants to buy?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. So let's say you're selling a townhouse in Burke Mountain. Okay. And the townhouse is just under $1 million, like 950 up in Almonds neighborhood of Burke Mountain. Where will those sellers go next if they're looking to have a house? Usually. Burke Mountain's like north of Coquitlam, past Coquitlam Center, up Coast Meridian. So if they're going to sell their property there, that's like a newer townhouse, and they're upsizing to a house, where do you think they'll be looking next?
Oh, the Valley?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. A lot of Langley, like a detached house in Langley that starts at 1.213, maybe with a suite, and they'll have room to go to 1.5. They might go to Maple Ridge, and they might go to Poco, okay, like Maryhill area if they want to stay in the area. And so now what you're going to do is you're going to create a marketing campaign in those areas and say, I have buyers. We have buyers who are looking for this type of home in this area. And so that upstream marketing campaign is going to get you a listing in the Valley now, in Langley. And now you're going to reverse that marketing campaign, and you're going to market that Langley house in Burke Mountain and say, we have this listing. It's in Langley. It's not in your area. However, if you're, the potential of you selling your townhouse that's right under $1 million could buy you a house out in Langley with a suite, because now kind of the streamline or the psyche of the sellers in Burke Mountain are going to buy in Langley. Does that make sense? Did I explain that right?
It does. How would you go about marketing to those people?
To Burke Mountain or Langley?
To the Burke Mountainers about Langley.
About Langley. So you have like a piece of paper like this, folded, and then it's on a mail route, and it says just listed, and it's in Langley. So the people who see it, they're gonna be like, just listed in Langley, and just say, and the marketing piece would say, just listed in Langley. Here's the price with a suite. Looking for growing families and a safe neighborhood around great schools. And so like naturally someone would see that and just be like, yeah, if we're looking for bigger space, like that could potentially happen.
And then we can zoom into the townhouse / condominium complex versus single family homes in Burke Mountain, correct? Because those will be not moving, I guess. So that'll be a waste of effort.
The condos in
So
Townhouse?
if you are marketing in Burke Mountain, something about Langley or Maple Ridge, then we will be zooming into the communities either in townhouses or in condominiums.
Correct. Yeah,
What
you're
should-
not. Yeah, and Canada Post can, um, like they know which ones are apartments and townhouses, and so you wouldn't be dropping those off to houses, right? Because someone in a house in Burke Mountain won't be really looking. They won't be looking into Langley for a house, but the people who are in condos and townhouses could be.
Right.
And it always streams east. Like, funny enough, like if there's a new couple, they're having a baby and they live in North Burnaby, they're always coming to West Coquitlam. And then if they have a condo in West Coquitlam, they're always moving to Poco for a house, and it always streams east. And so these marketing campaigns are really easy to look at.
May I ask this question? It's kind of been on my mind. Like, sorry, I don't want to jump in with everything, but how much of a typical business for the realtors come from outside their sphere of influence / contact of their sphere of influence?
Yeah, I've tracked my numbers since the beginning, and what I've noticed is in the beginning, it's a lot of sphere. In the first year or two, most of your business is going to come from the people you know, the people you've worked with. And then after 1 or 2 years, you're going to be lead generating and gaining a little bit of traction outside your sphere. And then after about 7 or 8 years, your database is going to be full of people you already know, people you've worked with. And so the non-sphere of influence people end up being past clients. And then so after 7 to 10 years, your past clients and your sphere is going to go up. And so it's kind of like this U graph of, in your first year, it's going to be high sphere, and then you're going to work with a whole bunch of people that you haven't met before, like year 5, 6, 7, and then they're going to start moving. So they're more past clients than sphere, but it is low-hanging fruit because there's so much repeat business.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, in the first year, we've seen anything from 50 to 80% sphere of influence. And the faster you get to lead generating, talking to people outside your comfort zone and door knocking, cold calling, then that percentage is going to go down quickly. Craigslist, Kijiji, social media. So post it on Craigslist. Again, like you're creating sign calls, really. Post it on social media. Brag that you have a listing coming up, and you have an open house, or you sold it, you got an accepted offer on it. Like, just be excited and share all that on social media. And then you can sell the actual listings. And so those are 7 opportunities you can get from one listing. And so you can see, like, the people who sell the home can buy a home. And then after they buy a home, you can gift them the MREI, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book, and turn them into investors. Yeah, and you do get sign calls, and like I said, like to sell the listing, on average, it only takes 8 hours of face-to-face time. And there's a lot of opportunities to gain business from that one listing. Any questions on this? So in preparation for a listing appointment, before, like, while I'm working on my CMA, I like to call the other agents who have really similar properties that's already sold. Okay, especially if I haven't gone into the house. If it's a neighboring property, I want to know why it sold for whatever amount. How many offers they had. If they had 11 other offers, like I could tell my clients that, this house sold a month ago. They had 12 offers. So there's 11 people who are still looking for homes in this area. So we know that the market's hot. And I just have conversations with other agents. And like, this is something a lot of people don't offer their sellers. Like they'll look at it on MLS. They'll look at the sales on the MLS and they'll say, okay, this one has 3 bedrooms, 2 bath. It's got the same lot square footage. It's a little bit bigger. So yours is worth a little bit less. And like, we're trying to appraise their most expensive asset that they have. And we're just going off of number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, lot size, and square footage, and trying to assess what their place is worth. Like, they may have just recently redone their roof and put skylights in. They might have dropped another $30,000 on the exterior and furnace and windows or something. And we're not asking those questions that really matter to them. And so when I call other agents, I want to know the details of the house. I want to know whether they're like how close the train track comes to the backyard. I want to know if it's a flat backyard or a ravine. Like, yeah, and a lot of realtors like I've met in the past, so I have a good relationship with them. And this is your chance to start your relationships with other realtors in the industry too. There's also an opportunity to give to that agent. Like, let's say they picked up a buyer from their sign call, and now that buyer's looking in the same area. If you're calling them to dive into a CMA, you're pretty much saying that there's a house coming up on the market soon. If you have any buyers, I can call you before it goes on the MLS. And so that's the value that you can create for the other agent. If you're going into a CMA on Saturday, it would be a really good idea to drive around the block for about 40 minutes and preview the competing listings, the other active listings, because the sellers are going to want to know how you're going to hype up their house. So if you preview the other listings, not just on the MLS, like actually drive by the other places and see if there's like encroachment with the other neighbors. See if there's a fire hydrant outside their house. See if it's near train tracks. See how you can give value to add value when you're listing their house. This is what's going to set you apart from other agents. Yeah, like there's no shortcuts in doing these things. But if you put the work in and you show it, then sellers will be very likely to choose you over, the agent that's been in the business for 20 years. Do research the zoning restrictions, bylaws, OCP. We have a really good tool for that on MLS. What's this? This is a link that says forms. Oh my gosh. For some reason, these links aren't working for Google Drive. All right. Can you open this? You can copy and paste this form from the chat box. So it's a quick checklist. Working with a realtor. Yeah, this is really old. Working with a realtor is now called the DORT, Disclosure of Trading Service and DORT, Disclosure of Representation and Trading Services. But, you know, when you go to the house, you want to make sure that you have a PDS. You want to make sure that you have all the FinTrack forms. Realtor data input is important because you don't want to have to email or call your sellers back and forth and say, oh, what kind of, I didn't pay attention to what kind of heating that your house has. Can you tell me whether it's baseboard or forced air? You don't want to go back and say, oh, you know what? I didn't pay attention to how many fireplaces that you have and whether they're gas or wood or electric. And so, you know, you don't want to look bad and look like a rookie. And so what I'll do is, a lot of times you can guess, like have an educated guess on what the realtor data input form is. Like you can go on Google Map, look at their house, know that it's an asphalt shingle house, see what kind of see what type of home it is, and you can fill out most of the realtor data input form. The ones that you can't fill out until you physically see the home are, yeah, number of fireplaces, what kind of heating that the home has, whether they have AC, suite measurements and things like that. And so before I go on the listing appointment, I'll highlight whatever I don't know on the data input form to make sure that I get that information at the meeting. All right, thanks, Owen. And then I'll post another link for, this one worked. I think most of you were at the buyer presentation that I did last week. And so I had like a new lead for buyer presentation form. And so we made one for listing presentations as well. So just posted it there. Obviously, you know, remove Ackerman Real Estate Team. Even Chris Ackerman doesn't go by that anymore. But your listing questionnaire, you know, it's good to take notes. Addresses, owners, contacts, preferred method of communication, email, text, cell, WhatsApp. People in the household, pets, type, number, and names. I have a story of almost losing a cat, but it turned out that the cat didn't live at the home, which is very weird. But yeah, it's good to know the pets. It's good to have like a plan for, you know, whether the pets are going to stay in the house. And so we have to make sure that the cats don't get out, or even better is that the pets are out of the home. So the sellers cage them up and take them away before the showings. How long have you lived and owned in the community? Where do they go to school? We can find that out. School catchment, we can usually find that out now. Are you planning to repurchase in the community? Have you sold a home before? A lot of times, like, a seller will come off as very confident, but you know, they haven't sold a home in 20 years, so they had a different experience last time than how we would market homes and who we bring in. Like stagers, I don't think stagers was a thing 20 years ago. They definitely didn't have Matterport or videos or drones and things like that. The whole process might be different. Fees might be different. So, you know, unless they've sold at least 2 properties in the last 5 years, I'm going to go through the entire listing presentation with the sellers. Ideal timing for when you want to list. A lot of times, like these meetings, the first meeting you go to could be up to about 3 months prior to them actually listing the home. Even if they have to be out of the house, like they need to sell as quickly as possible, it's not going to be on the MLS for at least 5 days. And the reason why I say that is because the stager's got to go through the house, the photographer's got to go through the house. It takes a day for the photos to come in, and then put it on the MLS. It's got to be the best days to put it on the MLS is Monday and Tuesday, because it doesn't go on the public websites for 2 days. And so you want most of the traffic to come in on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so you want to be able to have it on the public MLS by Thursday. So the ideal timing for listing is pretty important. An ideal timing for closing date, when they actually want to move, is important to have that conversation. And then a lot of these are the next page here. This is made for homes and condominiums and townhouses. How many stories? Basement area, is there a crawl space? A lot of realtors miss the crawl space, and like when there is a crawl space, like go in there, see how it is. Like as if you're a new realtor, I encourage you to go on every single inspection, whether you're representing the buyer or the seller, and just ask the inspector, if you see anything unique or something I could learn from, would you be able to tell me about it? And inspectors love that, because you're going to bring value to your future clients. So now when you go into a crawl space before you list a property, you're going to know like what you're looking for. Is there a furnace down there? Is it heated? Is the ground concrete or is it dirt? These are all things that you're going to get asked once your listing goes live and buyers start looking. Basement area, yeah, separate entry, meaning is there a suite? Number 3, suite, is it legal? Is it licensed, unlicensed, unauthorized? Every city is different with their bylaws on suites. So I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, from experience, like if a house is more than 10, 15 years old, most of the suites are unauthorized, and they just sell. It doesn't mean that your sellers have to have it licensed before they list it. You just list it as unauthorized, and fill out the MLD form to say that it's unauthorized. Approximate year built. This is really important. Once they So in a typical listing presentation, I'll walk through the home with my notepad, and I'll try and point out some of the additions and alterations they've done to the house. And then I'll say, yeah, let me know if you've done anything that I don't see. Like, if they have wainscoting, I'll, compliment them on that. Oh, you have wainscoting, you have crown molding. I see that, these floors look pretty new. You put in a new chandelier. Is that staying? Is that going? You want to ask as many questions about the house, and so you can sell it once it's listed. Direction of your rear yard, backyard. Like if it's a south or west facing backyard, then you're going to get a lot of sun. That's a selling feature that you really want to brag. What kind of construction, what kind of foundation, exterior finish. Rain screening is for condos and townhouses. How is the hot water tank? How is the roof and furnace? Like these are number 11 here. These are really good questions to ask, because most buyers, if they're really interested in the house, is always going to ask. I don't know why, like a hot water tank only costs $1,200 to replace now, but it just gets asked every time. What kind of roof is it? How many parking places? If you're listing a condo and it has one parking spot, it would be very prudent. It would be very good to know what the alternative to a second parking spot is. Is there street parking? Could you rent it from another person in the building? Could you rent it from strata? A lot of people, especially in the suburbs, like they're going to have two cars. And so it's really important for them to have that peace of mind when they move in, to know that the second car is not going to get towed every night. Type of parking access. Is there a view? What kind of fuel and heating? So when you go on a listing presentation, like physically bring this with you and just go through the check boxes. Number of fireplaces, floor finish. Is there a depreciation report? Rental restrictions, pet restrictions. These from 23 to 28, these 6 questions are all strata related. And these you really, there was like that that case recently where an owner bought a unit in 400 Capilano, so in Suderbrook. She had a big dog, and the listing realtor said there were pet restrictions, but didn't specify, didn't read the minutes. The buyer agent didn't read the minutes. She purchased. Now she's got this, I think it was like a big St. Bernard or something like that in the elevator. Someone started making conversation with them. There was a pet size restriction in that building. And so she begged and asked if she could stay there. But at the end of the day, the owner had to either, get rid of the dog, which is like getting rid of family, or not live there, rent it out, or sell the property. I think she ended up selling the property, but that's a lawsuit that could have been easily avoided. And when really upset sellers and buyers lose money, and they have to sell, the lawsuit's going to name everyone. It's going to name the listing agent, the buyer's agent, and it's not in our control of who's going to get sued. It's in the court's control. And so specific rental and pet restrictions, like make sure you have the newest bylaws. Don't get the bylaws off another agent, because if they're a year old, anything could have changed. Just get it from the strata, order it, and get that information right. Hydro bill, this is really good to know, although everybody's is different. And insurance. Yeah. Again, like you're putting yourself in a best chance to sell the home. And so these are all really important questions to ask your sellers. Any questions? Nada?
What is MLD for unauthorized construction?
Material latent defect. It's
Disclosure, right?
disclosure of material latent defect. Yeah. So our managing brokers will always say, an unauthorized suite could potentially be a material latent defect. And so just be safe and disclose it. Previous grow ops could be a material latent defect. Mold. Yeah, anything that a reasonable inspection won't find, but the seller knows. If there's like a termite issue and the seller's like blocked it off with new drywall and things like that, then that's definitely a material latent defect. Any other questions? Okay, I'm just pulling up. Alrighty. So does everyone use Canva here? Canva, or have heard of it? No, maybe. Like, I've been like for listing presentations, making like the nice, pretty package. Like I've gone through about 3 different listing presentations, and I always kind of try to improve upon it. And I see other people's samples and things like that. Like recently, I found that Canva has the best platform for it, but it is like $120. So it's an expense, but it's very easy. And like what I want, like I don't want you to spend a ton of time putting this presentation together. I'd rather have you lead generate, talk to clients, and be out there showing homes and working that way, instead of sitting in front of your computer and having this perfect polished presentations done up. So, you know, mine took maybe 2 days on Canva, like a day and a half on Canva. And I thought it was like the easiest to use. So I'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, can you see this? The homepage for Canva looks like this, and you can just search like listing presentation. And it'll come up with like a few that you can use and edit. And, you know, I find like these are pretty good. And so I used one of them and create a listing presentation. Okay. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. And then I can get a print shop to print these out for about $6 on nice heavy duty paper. So there's an introduction. Thanks for taking the time to review our seller's guide. I'm excited to introduce myself and show you how we sell homes. We encourage you to think about what's important to you when you're choosing a realtor to sell your home. If ability, experience, market knowledge, and a proven marketing plan are at the top of your list, we'd love to help you sell your property. That's my little introduction. Our core values are WI4C2TS, win-win or no deal. Always come from integrity, customers first. We're committed to our craft. Communication is very important. A lot of times, if you start lead generating for expired and terminated listings and they're not happy with their agent, I'm willing to bet that communication was one of the big failures, like the failing point to why the customers are going to choose another realtor. I've been to a house that, you know, they've been off the market for 20, 30 days. They still have a sign on their lawn. And I say, hey, my name's Hiroshi. I'm a realtor in the area. I see that your house is off the market now. I just want to find out, you know, what you're looking to do in the future. And they say, our house is off the market. And then at that point, I have to double check and I have to say, oh, I got to make sure it's not on Paragon. And I check and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's been expired for 30 days. And they're thinking, what the heck? Like, nobody told me that. I thought we're still on the market. And that's how, like, that happens all the time, unfortunately. But again, it's down to lack of communication. So if you're dealing with a terminated listing or an expired listing where they're looking at hiring a new realtor, just make sure that communications is a big check mark, is a big checkbox that you do. And like, you know, follow through with it. Like, even if you don't have a showing over a week, just communicate with them. Just say, you know what, this is our activity. Here's our online activity. If we don't get another week of showings, then we might be looking at reducing the price. Why Keller Williams? We're like the we don't boast Keller Williams, right? We're not on hockey boards, we're not on billboards, and a lot of people are like, they don't know exactly how many agents we have because we allow all the agents to brand themselves instead of, like, for example, Century 21. You're always going to know which listings are Century 21 because it's got that black and yellow C21 emblem. But with Keller Williams, you create your own marketing. So when a lot of people drive by these signs, they don't know it's Keller Williams, but they are. And we have 320 agents in our offices, in the 3 offices. And so, yeah, this is how I speak to sellers. A lot of this is like, you know, they don't need to know unless they ask. So I'll skip through a lot of, you know, about Keller, about me things. So I want to show sellers exactly what I do to market homes. You know, anyone can say they market homes, but they don't really dive into the details of how they set themselves apart from other companies and other realtors. The whole objective of listing the property is to sell the home in less time, have a smooth transaction, and make sure you get the most money at the end of the day. If those 3 principles don't apply, let me know now. Right? Like, some people, they might be afraid to sell because they don't have a house to purchase. And so we have to have that conversation before we list the property, because if we don't, I'm just full bore ahead. I'm selling the house as quickly as possible for as much money as possible. So before we list, strategic planning or strategic pricing, we're going to use all the data and resources. I'm going to talk to the agents, make sure your house is priced exactly where it should be, so you're not losing $1 on it by pricing it too low, or we're not losing buyers by pricing it too high. And before we list the property, we're going to get a home stager in there to create a wow factor. And that's going to be on me. That's at no cost to you. I'm sure you've looked at properties on the MLS and you've seen good photos versus really bad photos. I'm not the realtor who's going to take photos with an iPhone. I hire a professional. Again, the cost is going to be on me as part of marketing. But I do have the best photographer in the business. And we'll create nice property flyers. So when the buyer comes in, they're going to take that home, and they can always remember which property was yours.
Hiroshi, can you talk a bit more about staging? That's not something my team offers.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost you? Are you bringing couches in and armoires in? Are you putting little potted plants here and there? And like, how much staging are you doing?
So what I provide is staging consultation, and that's through another stager. Like I had Kimmy Schmidt doing everything, but she started another company, so she's no longer in it. And now I have another lady who I pay for. So she charges $100 for the visit, and the visit's usually between an hour to an hour and a half. And it's just staging consultation, which means she walks through every room, tells the seller how to clean up their house before they have a photographer come in and before open houses, before they show it to buyers. The furniture that she uses all the furniture in the house and moves them around because, you know, there's how we all live in the home, and then there's like the staged home. So she might like configure the furniture in a different way in each room. The big like benefit for us realtors is that it takes us out of the picture of being the bad guy and just like essentially saying, oh, you need to paint this room because nobody likes burnt orange. And obviously like the sellers have pride and, you know, they love their home. And so it takes me out of the picture of criticizing their home. And so that's where I see most of the value of hiring a stager. The staging consultation alone doesn't come with any kind of furniture, but they will recommend, you know, just buy potted plants for outside your door, put some greenery here, and then they'll use a lot of the knickknacks that are already in the house.
So it costs you basically $100.
Yes.
Okay.
So the photography costs about $200 to $400 depending on the size of the house. I've been, you know, since COVID, I've been doing Matterport, the virtual tour for every house, and that again costs $200 to $400 for each home. And the measuring for non-strata, if it's a house, costs 10 cents a square foot. So for each listing, it's about $800 to $1,200. That's the budget for marketing. Yeah, and I have that candid conversation with my sellers. Yeah.
In a non-off market, not like the way it is right now, if the house doesn't sell, that's the money at stake on your part, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but you know, it does motivate us to try and sell the whole property, and now we have skin in the game, right?
No.
And that's another reason you don't buy listings.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Although there's argument that, you know, that 7 ways of, what was it? 7 other opportunities for business. If it's in the area that you're farming and you're always in it and you have other properties that you're trying to list and sell, then it's, you know, then with a candid conversation with the sellers, you can always take a listing too.
What do you mean by not buy a listing? Sorry, I'm not well versed with that term.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say a seller is like unrealistic with their pricing. So you recommend a sale price between 1.2 to 1.3 million. And the sellers are like, no, I want 2 million. Right. Then, you know, you have to, as long as you've had this candid conversation with your sellers, you now have to make a decision whether you want to list this property for $2 million and they're not budging. You've handled all their objections. They know exactly what they're getting themselves into. You have to make a decision whether you're going to list the property for a really high price, spend the money on marketing, you know, there's a good chance that it won't sell. You'll have it on the MLS for 90 days, 120 days. That is called buying a listing, because you're paying money to market the home just to list the property with a low chance of selling it.
But could we not go into a game then, like if he's asking for an unrealistic price to kind of pay for the marketing?
You could, yeah. Yeah, that's all open. Just say, you know what, I could pay for it. I'm happy to pay for this if it sells, but if it doesn't, you know, my price that I'm recommending is at on the high side, 1.3 million. If we list it for 2 million for 90 days and it doesn't sell, would you be willing to reimburse me and then put that into the Schedule A of the contract? Personally, I've never done that, but yeah. Any other questions? This is all prep for putting the home on the market. And this is like at this stage, it's when I'll be walking through the house, pointing out their renovations, asking about parking, fireplaces, and things like that. So while we're listed, during the listing, you're going to have full internet exposure. So it's going to be on the MLS, realtorlink.ca. It's going to be on Keller Williams Listing Services, which automatically puts it out to 50 different websites in Canada. We're going to be, with COVID protocol in, the open house conversation is obviously very different from 2 years ago. Before, we would say Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 4 open house. And we're going to try to get as many people as possible in during that time. Now it's, are you comfortable doing an open house? And every time the answer has been no. And so we just say, if you're not comfortable with an open house, we're just going to do scheduled visits by pre-qualified buyers only. And that's been a lot more successful during COVID. Showings are conducted by myself or a colleague, of course, to answer any questions that the buyers have. A lot of people, especially out in the valley, will have lock boxes. So this is up to you on how you handle your business. Personally, I like to be there at the showings, point out all the little different things, sell the property. If I know I'm going away or I can't be at all the showings, I'll have a colleague who lives nearby who's able to show the properties and knows just as much about the house as I do. So showing is, it's a big benefit to the sellers, because if you're the second, for example, if you're the second agent that they're interviewing and the first agent says lockbox, you're going to offer a service where you're showing up, selling the property, you're keeping everything secure. You have a buyer profile, so it's like, what kind of buyers coming into the property, what kind of people they are, and you can tell the sellers, which they like a lot. Like, sellers often ask, who came by the house? Are they a young family? Are they retired? And you can tell the story. Again, ongoing communication. I harp on it more than once in the presentation. Monitor and communicate with showing feedback, price watch your neighborhood. If a new listing comes up in the neighborhood, I want to tell them about it before they see the sign go up. And I want to have a conversation with the realtor and see if we can cross market. So if our house isn't for a buyer, then I can always point out that there's another house across the street, and always keep a good relationship with fellow realtors in the area. Any questions?
I have a question. It's kind of off topic a tiny bit, but I've heard from Carol that it's advantageous when someone doesn't have maybe a strong offer, like a strong deposit, to go in with a letter, or even to request to deliver an offer directly to a seller. Can you tell me what that kind of looks like when that happens?
So the buyer's writing a personal letter to the seller?
Yeah, or that, and basically when, basically that's what I'm asking, as well as I've heard that it's a benefit to offer to get in front of the seller, try to get in front of the seller and give the offer directly to them. But I don't really know how that works. Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, I used to present all my offers directly to the sellers, especially in a multiple offer situation. So if I have a buyer and I know there's 3 other offers, I'll write up the offer. I'll have the buyers sign a letter to the seller to tell them, we love what you've done to the house. We walked in, it felt like home. We love the schools in the neighborhood. We're purchasing this for it to be our forever home, or until the kids grow up. And we really hope. Thank you for your consideration, and we really hope you select us. And so, it appeals to the S's, who are the sellers, and sometimes it's worth a few $1,000s. If your offer is lower, they'll still pick you based on them liking your story and your family. The other thing is that if another offer is higher, there's a good chance that they'll say, this other offer is higher. We can't say no, but if you're willing to match it and come up X amount of dollars, then they'll go with you. And so you're just giving yourself a really good chance of winning it. If you're going to show up to present the offer to the other agent and to the sellers, you can do that in person. And so, there's a little bit of rapport building skill there to be in front of the sellers and say, this is the profile of my buyers. They love the neighborhood. They're going to stay here for a long time. They love what you've done to the property. And their offer is this. And when you're presenting it, now you can say, okay, here's our offer. Our deposit is, I know it's less than 5%. It's only $30,000. And the reason is that, whatever the reason is, like they have to cash out their finances from when they sell the home, but $30,000 is a lot of money to them. So it's not an amount that they'd be walking away from. And then you can go through each subject clause and just let them know, like they're pre-approved for financing. They'd have an inspection clause in there, but they love the home so much that, from what we see, an inspector won't be nitpicking at your house, and we have full intention to go through with subject removal.
Would your clients be with you, or would you be in there presenting to them on their behalf?
You'd be presenting to them you'd be presenting for them. The buyers are not there.
Mm-hmm.
Did I understand this right? Is it not dictated by the seller's realtor in terms of presentation of offers as to whether he will allow, or is it permissible for the buyer's agent to present the offers when the seller's agent is already there?
That's right. Yeah. On the form of instructions for presenting offers, or direction of presenting offers, it'll be it'll say on there whether the sellers will accept offer presentations in person or not.
Is that public knowledge, or is it, because the reason I ask is, like you said, you would, in the olden days, you would probably do it to the seller, like you'll present the offer directly to the seller, but you will have to ask this to the other agent first, right?
Yeah. It's not public knowledge, but it is in Paragon.
To ask the agent.
Sorry?
You have to inquire from the seller's agent, correct?
It's in documents under Paragon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So in documents, you'll have the title, sometimes the PDS, and you'll also have the direction of offer presentations.
But you would never do that without the knowledge of the seller's agent, right? Of
course. Yeah. Agent first. The agent will be there if you're presenting an offer. The first time I did this, the first time I presented an offer, at the time, my mentor said, let's go, here's the offer, go present it. And just kind of put me out there. I was shaking like a leaf. And I was like, here's our offer. It's $335,000. This is the best my client will come up. And the other agent was super nice, luckily. He could have ripped me apart, but it was Chris Townsend, who's an agent who does a ton of business in Coquitlam. And we laugh about it now, but he was like, "Oh yeah, I could tell that you're brand new." But he was so nice to me, and we ended up working together on that deal. But yeah, I look back to it and I'm like, huh. I'm glad that he was so kind.
If somebody has one of my girlfriends, a lot of her assets are tied up, and she's needing more. She basically she messaged me last night and said, "I think I'm going to buy a place," and I'm like, "Oh my god, she's not even got any of her ducks in line." So I'm trying to get her in touch with people. Let's just say we were going to put an offer in on something, and she had a low deposit. Is that the best tactic? Those two things that we just spoke about?
I think so. Yeah. Once you explain, like, or you could do a 2-step deposit. You could do
Oh, yeah, good idea.
upon subject removal, and then 30 days later, 20 days later, you could do another lump sum.
Okay. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. It's not always cut and dry, right? With like the sum of money we're asking for, it's 5% of the purchase price, usually.
But there's no rule. You could offer $10 if you wanted, but you just won't be taken seriously.
Exactly. I can offer you my a button out of my pocket.
Right. Right.
Exactly. But that's the money that's held in good faith that you'll go through with the offer.
Mhm.
And so it's got to be an amount that the buyer's not willing to walk from, and the seller sees that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And ideally, if we could get them to, if they had 20% down or something like that, that is a more favorable position. Is that kind of the
Yeah, it is. If two offers are neck and neck and one has a higher deposit, then there's more confidence in that one. But I don't think it needs to be above 5%, 5 or 6%. I think that's like you're showing enough intention and good faith.
okay?
Yeah. Sometimes it comes down to everything, like especially if a seller has had an offer collapse on them due to financing or something, and you just want to show them that you're locked in for financing, that there's money in the bank, then you could put in a higher deposit, and that might mean more to the seller, to that particular seller. But again, like, you can have these conversations with the agent, and the agent, is going to work in the seller's best interest, and you can put something together that works for both of you.
So Hiroshi, talking about a buyer asking the seller's agent as to how many offers you have, that information has to come clean from the seller's agent. How would he dictate that conversation? Would it be based on his conversation with the seller or what?
Say it again.
Like if the buyer inquires from the seller's agent, how many offers do you have at the moment? I think he has to come clean on that, correct?
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, that's right.
He is obligated to be honest on that front,
Mhm.
right?
That's right. Yeah. And we can fact check now. We can call our managing broker to check with the other managing broker to make sure that there were other offers.
Oh, okay.
And so they weren't just making it up. That's like common practice now. And so usually it comes verbally over the phone or in text. They'll tell you, or touch base, like our internal communication.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they'll say, oh, we have an offer. You are now in multiple offers. Bring your highest and best. Alrighty. So after the sale, like our job's not done until the keys and services are done. Negotiation is a big thing. And this is your chance. Like if they ask, there's another realtor that's willing to lower their price, that's your chance to say, if they're willing to give up money from their own pocket, how easily will they give up money out of your pocket when it comes to negotiating with strong agents, right? You have to show them, like, right off the bat that you're a good negotiator. Chris Niedley was just telling me the other day, like, someone asked for a discount on their commission, and Chris just simply said, no, I don't do that. And then they hired him right after he said no, because they're like, well, that's what we wanted to hear. We were just testing to make sure that your back's not going to break when we ask for money off. Subject removal to closing. Send all the documents to the lawyer. Make sure you're there for the inspection, the appraisal, and then coordinate with purchase, which is huge. And then post-sale service. So I want to show sellers that I'm there every step of the way. Where buyers come from. Friends, relatives, neighbors, yard sign, realtors, internet is 51%. And so that's where we want to focus a lot of our marketing on. Others is just this little sliver. It might be classified ads, newspapers, I don't know. Preparation. I know it's hard to read, but it just goes over like a few recommendations of how to set up your home. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms. Again, the stager will go through everything with them. One thing with the stager is I don't send the stager unless I have a listing agreement, because I'm gonna have to start paying for stagers and photographers, and I can't let the sellers have a chance to go with another realtor. If they go to a party that night and they're like, yeah, I just met with a realtor and they're sending me a stager and photographer, and then whoever's at that party's like, oh, my sister's a realtor, use them. And then all of a sudden you don't have a listing. So I do try to get the pre-listing value that I bring of staging, photography, the other ones that I mentioned, Matterport, floor plan. Like, that's the reason why I'm going to get the listing signed today. So who determines value? The value of your property is determined by what a buyer is willing to pay and a seller is willing to accept in today's market. Buyers make their decision based on comparing your property to other properties sold in your area. So it's like your pre-licensing exam. There has to be some sort of overlap in order for there to be a successful sale. Sometimes that gap will be $5,000 or $10,000, and it sucks, but one person's not willing to take it, one person's not willing to go up to it, and there's just no overlap. But in every successful sale, you'll notice that there's like some sort of overlap and the two parties are happy. And so we don't create the market as realtors, we only interpret it to our sellers. Yeah. Anytime you have like a seller saying, I think my place is worth like $250,000 more than what you said, my answer is usually, I can only interpret the market for you. I don't create the market. And this is my interpretation of the market. Testimonials, have these in your buyer portfolio and your seller portfolio. And then have them put the testimonials on your Google reviews. Net sheet, really important. So sellers won't bring this up, but if you talk to them about it, they'll really appreciate it, because essentially, like, I tell them, I don't want any surprises to come up. I want you to know exactly what you're going to net out of this property. And that's going to include any mortgage prepayment penalty, commission, miscellaneous fees, taxes. And so I fill this out completely. Sale price, commission, legal fees. Legal fees is $1,050. I think they're going up now to like $1,200. Miscellaneous would include prorated strata fees, insurance, moving costs, prorated property taxes, mortgage, what's left on the mortgage, and then a prepayment penalty. So some people will know what that is, and a lot of people won't know that there's a prepayment penalty, and they'll be shocked in the amount when they hear it. Like sometimes it's tens of thousands of dollars if they still have a few years left in their mortgage. So I tell them exactly what they're going to net. If we have a successful sale price of X amount, like 1.3 million, they'll net 1.224 for $168.94. Make sense?
So are you getting this information from their mortgage broker? Because that's intimate information that I don't always collect.
Not from their mortgage broker. I normally just ask, you know, how much is left on your mortgage is what I say. And I'll write it in, because this all helps them so much, like to know what they're going to net out of the sale. So once you have your net takeaway, you can use that number as a down payment for your purchase, and then calculate how much their mortgage payments will be on their purchase, how much their suite will rent for, and then you have like, you know, your monthly payment on your new home will be approximately $2,400 a month. And once you get to that point, and they're nodding their head and saying, yeah, we could definitely work with that, you're not going to get an objection that's going to say, now, can you lower your commission from there? You're just not, because you've worked out the numbers so well to a point where they're very comfortable paying their monthly fee on their purchase. Our guarantee: if you are not satisfied with the customer service or marketing efforts, then you can cancel the listing at any time, no questions asked. And I say that to everyone. Like sometimes sellers want to cancel their listing because their plans changed, the market changed. A lot of times it's not your fault, but they want an out in case. There are nightmare stories where realtors are just hanging on to their listing and they're like, no, this is staying on the market. And like, why? I don't know, if the seller doesn't even want to sell at that point. But yeah, they want that peace of mind of, if I don't want to stay on the market, then can we cancel it?
So this is not a case of cancel and protect though, right?
You know, if you have a seller that wants to take it off the market, have that conversation. There's two cancellations we can do. We can just terminate it, which means tomorrow you might have an agent come up to your door and ask you if you want to list it with them, because they can. Or we can cancel or protect it, which means for the duration of the listing, which is 45 more days or whatever, nobody else can put it on the MLS. Like I still have the rights to your property on the market. And
Did
so
you ever have this happen to you ever?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have this happen to you?
Yep. Yeah. Like a home that they were looking at, that we had a subject to sale on, ended up selling to somebody else. So they're like, okay, we're going to take it off the market in a different market.
And you lost your money?
Yep. But, you know, you go through, on average, the business will make a profit.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, it's the risk. Like they really wanted that house. And I said, okay, if we do everything really quickly, this, and this, we get the offer accepted, we put the house on the market and we find a buyer right away, this could work.
Because my thinking was, and I also, Alison, I'm going to bring in Nick's presentation as well on that because I saw it once. And the moment we are, out and loud about this kind of a guarantee, allowing them to walk away, are there any temperamental signs that we should look for that we don't endeavor into expensing things and going into that deal when they look very temperamental in some way?
Yeah, that's when I have all the conversation back in this slide where I say, if you list with me, this is my full intention is to sell the property as quickly as possible, as smooth as possible, and for as much money as possible. If any of those don't apply, let me know now. Because they'll tell you, they'll be like, oh, as quickly, like, we don't know. We might not want to get out of here, in September. We want to wait till the springtime when more houses are on the market. And then I can have that conversation with the seller.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to make sure their motivation is definitely there. Because if it's not, if they're just they just want to put it out there and dabble the market, I don't want the listing. It doesn't help anybody. And so that's my guarantee. At the end, definitely at the end and not at the beginning, put your bio on there. And the reason why you put it at the end is because the whole appointment is about the seller's house and the seller. It's not about you. Unfortunately, we don't matter as much to them as their family and their own home does. So put in a buyer just to let them know that you have a life outside of real estate, and that you're a human. And then just tack it on at the end. Your information and a thank you. So that's my listing presentation that I take. Going through this presentation just keeps you like on a guided conversation. And then naturally, at the end, I'll see if they have any questions. And then I always say, should we start with the paperwork? So I'll show up with the PDS, the listing contract and everything in a file. And I always end it with, should we start with the paperwork? And then that's when you'll get your objection, which you've all been practicing so you can handle really well. Any questions? So as homework, you can create it on Canva. We have other samples on our wiki site of listing presentations from other teams and other individuals from the office. Again, don't spend a lot of time on this. Like, don't spend weeks and weeks on it. At the most, spend 2 or 3 days, because once you've created it, you'll be so excited to try to use that on somebody. Like, you'll be lead generating, you'll be knocking on doors, you'll be practicing it. And like, even now we got 7 minutes left. If you guys want to put in your information and like have script partners, and so you'll call each other up, set up like a Zoom call. So today is Monday. Create like a listing package in the next 2 days. And then on Thursday, you can practice it on each other, going through the listing presentation. And so if you want, put in your name, phone number on the sidebar, and then text each other and communicate, see if there's time that you want to practice a listing presentation with each other. Whatever you do, don't practice on your real clients. Because like we hear it all the time. It's like, oh, what'd you do over the weekend? I went on a listing presentation. How'd it go? It was my first time ever, and I never like, I don't know what I was doing and whatnot. So yeah, definitely practice your listing. Alrighty. I don't see any names and numbers in the in-call messages. This is if you want to practice it by the end of the week. Write in your name and number in there. You guys are realtors now. So all that information's public anyway, right? The number of calls that we get from the CRA looking for us is unbelievable, but oh well. This is the career we chose. So if you want, write these names and numbers down, because these are like the people that you'll be practicing your conversations with.
Hiroshi, going back to one of the questions you had for 7 opportunities for one listing, I think one of the points that you brought in is buyer calls on a listing and convert.
Mm-hmm.
When you say convert, is if they don't end up buying the house that you're selling, then you could be their buyer's agent?
Mm-hmm. 90% of the time, the conversations goes the same way. Well, it's such a heavy like seller's market. So in the last like 1 year, I've fielded these calls the same way. Hello, Hiroshi speaking. Oh, 123 Main Street, is that still available? Is what the buyer says. And I said, just out of curiosity, are you a realtor or are you a buyer? And I'll say it's a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they say they're a buyer. I say, yeah, 123 Main Street's a great property. Actually, we were getting a lot of calls on that one. That one does have an accepted offer. We just got it last week, and it looks like it's going through. However, there are a few other properties that that are on the market that are really similar to it. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I just want to make sure you're not working with an agent already. And then I'll say what I could do is like, this property is not sold yet, so I could call you if the deal goes south. Just out of curiosity, what attracted you to this property? And then they'll say, I'm looking for this, this, and this. And I said, oh, okay. Well, in that case, like, yeah, there are a few other properties that are available that just came out that you could look at. But obviously, I want to make sure that if I'm bringing a client properties, like they're committed to me as much as I am to them. Otherwise, I would just sell the properties to my clients. Yeah. And ultimately, I'm just trying to get like a coffee sit down with the potential buyer. Yeah, that's how it's gone mostly. Before the seller's market, I'd handle the call the same way. And I'd say, hey, it's Hiroshi. And they say, you have a listing on 123 Main Street. Is that still available? And I'd say yes or no. And then they'd ask a question. Usually, let's say, for example, how much is it? And buyers see everything online. So if they haven't seen it online yet, it usually means that the house is above their price catchment, like their parameter. And so I would say, oh yeah, I can grab that file for you. And the place is $1.5 million. Are you in that price range? And then they'll say, oh no, that's way too much. And I'd say, okay, well, what interests you in the property? Could I bring some that are in your price range? Bring you if you're not working with another agent.
So you could easily step into a buyer's conversation. And at what point are you referring them to another agent because you cannot be their buyer's agent for that house?
If their interest in the house that you've listed is very high. If it's exactly the house that that they want, and yeah, they want to buy it, then I've called Amin in the past and just said, hey, I got these buyers. They're coming to look at this house. I'm going to go meet them. Would you be their buyer's agent?
Oh, cool. That's pretty cool. So that means you could refer to someone you know easily.
Yeah,
without having a conflict of interest.
exactly. Yeah, avoid all conflict of interest, and you can refer the clients to a colleague. Yeah. It's 11:59. I got a tea time in a couple hours. Any questions? Any follow-up? No. I hope it helped. Next week, it's Labor Day weekend, so we don't have this on Monday. And then September 13 to like the week after, we have 7 days of success. And so hopefully I'll see everyone there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.